everybody, I'm Tom Vasel and welcome to our top 10 coverage of 2019. I'm going through today my top 10 Euro games. So you might be new to the channel, so a couple things I want to explain. First of all, I haven't played every game that came out this year. It's not possible to do so really, but I played a lot of them, so I'm just talking about the best ones of the ones that I played. Secondly, what is a Euro game? Well, it's kind of hazy, so I'll be a little bit specific here. I'm talking about heavier strategic Euro games where usually the end goal is to get victory points. Only one of the games on this list that made my top 10. That doesn't mean I don't like them. I really like them. It's just that so many great games came out this year. And, you know, what the exact definition of a Euro game is always going to be up for debate, but you know what? This is mine. So we're going to jump into this list, but before we do, I want to do a quick couple shout-outs to our Kickstarter backers from our 2019 Kickstarter. First of all, Lauren Prill, and Rod Fleck, and Nick Roxko, and Chuck Mitchell, and also Gavin and Wesley Roscoe, and the Guild of Geeks found on Meetup. So thank you to all of you all for backing our Kickstarter. I really appreciate it. But here we go. It's time to jump into my top 10 favorite heavy Euro games, and we'll start with the most thematic of all of them, maybe, at number 10.
Number 10.
Number 10 is Escape Plan. So this is, Vital Lacerda is not necessarily someone whose games I play all the time. They're fairly heavy. They're very involved. Escape Plan is not an exception to that, but it is one of the lighter versions of the games that he makes. In this game, you are a bunch of thieves. You're trying to escape out of the city as fast as you can, but you want to escape with more money, and you wouldn't be that upset if some of the other people didn't escape at all. So in this game, you're running around trying to find where you've hid money. And that sounds like a very thematic style game, and it is thematic, but it's very much Euro-y as you try to take your different actions and move around. There's a lot of moving parts. The game is pretty involved, but I like it. I like the theme for sure, but I also like it has a push your luck aspect to it, where as you go through and you find the exit to the city as time goes by, you can decide to just get out or maybe go around and get just a little bit more money before you head out of the city. So really cool game, big game, beautiful game, good all around. Escape Plan, my number 10. Number 9.
Number 9.
Number 9 takes place up in the frozen tundra in the future, I guess, and that is the Artemis Project. Now, this is a game in which you are placing dice kind of as workers, and what makes this game kind of fascinating is where you place the dice, you can place them to go off on missions, you can place them on the board, but the way you get resources, let's say I place a 5 in a spot, that gives me a certain kind of resource. I'll get 5 of that resource. But someone could put a 2 there, and they're going to go first and get only 2 resources, and then I'll get 5 if there's enough left. And you compound that with a lot of dice, and it makes it a very interesting thing. Big numbers are good because you can get more resources, but small numbers get to go first. And that's a pretty neat idea. The game, again, is beautiful, and I might be repeating myself because that's the way most of the games in this list are. But this is a fantastic, it's very interactive because you work together to go out on these different missions, has amazing artwork, placing the dice and using them to get the resources. It has a lot of things that you might find standard to a Euro game, but it brings in a cool theme, like a futuristic, mining in the Arctic and things like that, and building places for people to live. But I don't know, it has that worker placement with dice, which is something I just find to be extremely fun and interesting. So my number 9, the Artemis Project.
Number 8.
Remember that I said this is my definition of a Euro game. So the next game was not actually advertised as a Euro game at all, but I really feel like it is. And even though some people took my review to be negative, I really do like this game, and that is Tapestry. So Tapestry, which bills itself as a civilization game, is civilizations and sort of feels kind of like that. It has cool buildings, and you start with different civilizations like the futurists and the scientists and all that. But the game, it's about moving on these tracks on the outside of the board, and which tracks you're going to be moving up on are going to give you bonuses and things like that that will score you various points. I mean, if you kind of squint your eyes a little bit, the civilization part of this almost fades away, and it is a pretty interesting Euro game. Now, there was a little bit of balance issues. They released a FAQ just recently addressing that. But I have to say, each time I play this, I really have a good time with it. I think it's best with 4. 5 seems a little too many to play the game with. But this game definitely also has some haters because the hype was through the roof. And that's just how the games for Jamie Stegmaier go. But I thought it was a very solid game despite all that. It works well. Every time I play it, I take my civilization and my tapestry cards, and I pick different tracks on the board to go for, and it's a unique, interesting experience. My number 8, Tapestry.
Number 7.
There's a lot of, I get many times people say you don't like heavy Euro games, and I say to them, fie on that. And this is one that I would put on the list, and that is Trismegistus. I can never pronounce this one correctly, or any game from this company. Trismegistus here, from Daniele Tassini and Federico Pier Lorenzi, is a really involved game that, again, is extremely thematic as you are alchemists. And there's a little bit of problems in the sense of there's almost too much going on in this game, and the dice symbols are a little confusing to read. But beyond that, there's a really fascinating game here as you are taking different basic elements and then transmutating them into other better elements and moving up. I mean, there's points being scored all over the place in this game. It has a really neat mechanism where you can kind of combo as you finish different goals, and you can then put these tiles on your thing that give you bonuses, that give you other combos. And as the game goes, when you first start the game out, you're like, I'll be lucky if I transmutate anything. By the end of the game, you're like, I am the master alchemist. It feels pretty good. You really just do combo upon combo upon combo, and I think the whole thing comes together in a pretty cool way. Not for the faint of heart, but a game that I enjoy a lot, Trismegistus.
Number 6.
Number 6 is a reprint / reworking of a game, but I never actually played the original game, so this one was pretty much new to me in a very beautiful version of a theme I'm really kind of tired of, ancient Egypt, but this one really kind of brought it, I thought it would look pretty for once, and that is Agiza. Shifting Sands. This is a worker placement game where you place these boats on this river, but the farther down the river you place it, you can never go above that again. And so as you place these boats in the river, you get cards, you can build. You're trying to get materials and stuff so that you can build the Great Pyramids and obelisks and the Sphinx and all kinds of cool things. And it's a pretty straightforward game. It's one of the easier ones to play on this list. Everything is really straightforward, but at the end of the day, it's just so satisfying. And there's no question that this production is top-notch. You know, I definitely have given Stronghold grief on games in the past for having lower component quality. I do not think that is the case here. I think this one is just top-notch. Again, I cannot speak to the differences between the original and the new version, but I don't have any desire to go back and play the original version because the new one is so good. Simple worker placement game, but a lot of options, a lot of different ways to score points. I found this one to be very fun. Agiza.
Number 5.
Number 5 is a game that I honestly didn't think would make the list. And even when I was playing the first game of it, I was like, I don't know. But as it went on and on, this one became more and more intriguing to me, and that is Terramara. So Terramara is a worker placement game. It's your typical worker placement game. Almost has a Lewis and Clarkian vibe to it. You have these tribes and you're going, I mean, it's not Lewis and Clark, but it has that same thing where you're going to go out and explore. And what this game is, it's a worker placement game. And as you play this, you place workers on different spots and they give you resources and whatever. The problem is, as there are really, really good spots that you can place them on, but you don't get those workers back until you reach that round. So I can jump ahead and take this really juicy, amazing spot, but I might not get that worker back for 3 more turns, or I may never get that worker back. And so I have to decide when I'm going to give up a worker forever, or do I use them to take the lower spots, but then I get them back and I can use them again the next turn. There's a lot of replayability. This game is going to have different ways to score and different things to do. There's a little bit of fighting in the game in a sense, which at first I was like, I do not like this, stay off my territory. But it works okay, and there's very clear, delineated, strategic pathways in this one. The board is a little busy. It's not as pretty as some of the other games in this list, I think, but it has such a unique, stressful feel. This game, when I'm playing it, I'm so annoyed at all the other players. I'm so annoyed at the game itself, and yet I'm having a good time. That is not the only time I'm going to say that on this list. In fact, that's the same way I feel about the next game, but for now, my number 5 is Terramara.
Number 4.
Number 4 is the game that has caused me the most stress over the course of this year for any of the Euro games, and this is possibly the heaviest game on the list other than Trismegistus, and that is Barrage. Now, Barrage, I was super excited about looking at the designers, Luciani, Simone Luciani, one of the designers, and like, oh wow, these guys, they did Orenzo and Magnifico, and this is even bigger and juicier. Now, there's definitely been some complaints about production values in the game. I cannot speak to them because mine seemed okay. But this game here, where you are building dams and trying to stop water coming down the river so that you can run it through power plants, is so involved. It has this really neat wheel mechanism where you put these workers in, they spin around the wheel and you can't use them again until they come back. You're building different buildings, you're building dams and power plants and all sorts of things, but it is so intense and it is so direct confrontational. I will build a dam in front of you to capture the water, steal the water, pour it to one of my power plants, and then dump that water in a spot where you will never get it, and you will be so mad at me, and you're also doing it to me, and I'm really mad too. And I like it. It's really involved. There's a lot of really tough, interesting decisions in it. It is one of the more cutthroat. I mean, people often talk about Euro games being nice and gentle. Not Barrage, at least not in my opinion, but it's still a fantastic one. My number 4.
Number 3.
Number 3 is a game that I just keep enjoying more each time I play it. And I think it's my favorite of this designer's games, even though he has some of the most popular games on the internet, including the Great Western Trail, but I like Maracaibo a lot. Now, the theme of this, whatever, who knows what the theme's about, it's about exploring the Caribbean, whatever. You're going to move a ship 1 to 7 spaces in this game and then take an action. And that's the game. But what the actions you take, that's where the game differentiates. And there's this deck of cards, and the cards can be used in multiple ways. And you build cards in front of you that give you special abilities or special actions that you can take and nobody else can take. And every game of this is very varied and just really interesting. There's a few small production problems with the game. I think the little stacks of discs is a pain in the neck. But wow, every time I played this, I've done something completely different, and I feel like everything's balanced. And while I thought the Great Western Trail was fine, and Blackout Hong Kong was fine, and the one in Africa, which is suddenly Mombasa, was fine. I think those were all good games. I think at this point in time, this one is my favorite of the group. Again, not much of a theme, but Pfister has never really been strong on the theme anyway. Great little game. Well, not little, it's pretty big, and actually, Maracaibo, my number 3.
Number 2.
Number 2 feels like a bit of a cheat, since this is essentially a 1.5 version of the first game, which is one of my favorite Euro games of all time, but it's different enough that I'm adding it to the list. And that is Marco Polo 2, which now, I've done a review, I don't know, several weeks ago. I think I can successfully say now Marco Polo 2 for me kind of replaces Marco Polo. I like them both, but Marco Polo 2, it's easier to travel in this game, even though it does bug me a bit that Marco Polo is not in Marco Polo 2. But anyway, in this game, you are traveling around a map here with your explorers, and you are placing dice, one of my favorite mechanisms, and you're using those resources to complete contracts or move your person. Now, I know it's very possible to move your person on the map in Marco Polo, but it is easier here, and that slight easier of movement and adding an extra resource, jade, and a few other minor things bring this one above the original one, which I really liked anyway. Each person has a special power, which feels overpowered and much better than everyone else's, and I like that too. It's a really cool game. Marco Polo 2. My number.
And finally, number 1.
And my number 1 is a sequel to Architects of the West Kingdom. It's Paladins of the West Kingdom. Although there's not a, I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, ooh, Knights and Paladins, and that's not really much of the game at all. It's a worker placement game, kind of, sort of. Someone brought this to my attention. You are occasionally placing your people in spots others can't get to, but you're usually putting them on your own board. And it's picking the colors and choosing what color workers go in what spots. Some spot can hold any color. Some spots can only hold one color. You can take these workers that are a color that can be used anywhere, but then they come sometimes with a negative benefit. There is so many different ways to score points in this game. There's so much going on in it, and I like how it looks. I like the artwork. I think every time I play it, I pick a different strategy to go down, and it seems like they're balanced in different ways to score. You can try to go for the balance approach. You'll lose. You better pick one of the strategies and follow it. And I just think it's cool. I think it's not as easy to pick up as Architects was, but Paladins of the West Kingdom, I think, is the best game that Shem Phillips has designed to this point. I really like Raiders with the expansion, but this one is pretty solid. Now, as I said at the very beginning of the list here, these are my 10 favorite Euro games, and while most of them did not make my top 10, almost all of them make my top 20. It was a fantastic year for gaming in general, and while some years there are more Euro games than others, I think 2019 is one of the strongest years for Euro games that we have seen in a long time. It was an incredibly cool year and a lot of great games that came out. Now, before I sign out here, real quick, what did I miss? Why did I not mention it? Let me know, and I'll quick talk about them. I'll mention one of the biggest Euro games that come out was, well, I'll just answer it. Let's see what you guys say first. What are games that I did not mention that I think? I didn't say Architects. Sorry, Architects. I'll pronounce it right. I will play Architects. Italian designers are rocking it. I 100% agree on that. Right now, I'll fight you over Italian designers are the best Euro game designers on the planet at this point in time. Change my mind. Wingspan, I don't consider a heavy Euro game. It was in my top 10, fantastic game, but I just don't consider it a heavy Euro game. It's super fun. I like it a lot. Just not on this list. City of Big Shoulders, I did not play. I heard it's very good. Economic, long game, just didn't get it to the table. Circadian's First Light, unfortunately I didn't get the chance to play it yet because I'm missing a piece for that game, so until I get that piece I won't be able to play that one. Black Angel did not make my top 10. Reavers of Midgard was like number 11 on this list. Cooper Island, I thought it was okay. It's a very long game that scores a very few amount of points, which is just not my style. I get it, it works, it's very mechanical, almost to the point of just too much. But I should be reviewing that one. I think I might be reviewing that one this week, actually. Terrence of Tiefenthal, I've not yet played, actually. Choco Factory is a fantastic game, a little too light for this list. I was trying to pick games that were slightly heavier. Flotilla, I've not played yet. Expedition of New Dale, not yet played. Again, I try to play everything, but just not able to get it to the table. So some of these, you may see them rise. But I will say this, the 10 games I did mention are absolutely fantastic, and you should check them out if you like this genre at all. So that is my top 10 Euro games of the year. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back in 40 minutes with Z, where we begin our look back at the decade, starting in the year 2010. I'll be doing also another one of these top 10s tomorrow, so I'll see you then. Until then, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching Top 10 Euro Games of 2019 on the Dice Tower.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.